There comes a moment in life when you realize you can't stay where you are. A divine stirring happens deep within, urging you to wake up and step into something greater. This is not just about self-improvement, it's about transformation. Maybe you've felt stuck, weighed down by failures, doubts, or a sense that life is passing you by. But today, God is calling you higher. He is awakening you to a new life, a life filled with purpose, strength, and His presence. It's time to shake off the past, renew your mind, and embrace the future God has designed for you. Are you ready to awaken to a new life? There comes a moment in every person's life when they feel a deep stirring inside, a sense that they were made for more than the routine, more than the struggles, more than the limitations they have placed upon themselves. This is not just a passing thought or a fleeting feeling, it is a divine call. It is God reaching out, shaking you from your slumber, telling you that you can no longer afford to sleep through the life He has given you. You were created for a purpose far greater than what you have settled for. But the problem is that so many people are spiritually asleep. They go through the motions, living each day like the one before it, caught up in survival rather than purpose. They wake up physically, but their hearts and spirits remain dormant. They are unaware of the power that lies within them, the calling that is waiting to be answered, the new life that is just beyond their hesitation. God never intended for you to live a life of passivity, a life where you simply exist rather than thrive. That inner longing you feel, that dissatisfaction with where you are, it's not a sign of failure, it's a wake-up call. Think about how often people miss the moment when God is calling them. They sense that something needs to change. They hear that inner voice telling them to rise, but they push it aside. They say, "I'll do it later. I'm not ready. Maybe one day." And without realizing it, days turn into months, months into years, and they are still in the same place, still waiting, still hesitating. But what if today is the day you decide to answer the call? What if this moment is the moment you choose to wake up? Throughout Scripture, God has always called people to wake up before He did something great in their lives. When He was about to lead Israel into the Promised Land, He told Joshua, "Be strong and courageous." It was not a casual suggestion, it was a command. Why? Because Joshua had been living under the shadow of Moses. He had been faithful, but it was time for him to step into leadership. It was time for him to wake up to his purpose. The same is true for you. Some of you have been faithful where you are, but now it's time to rise. You've learned the lessons, you've gone through the preparation, and now God is calling you to take a step forward. Maybe you've been holding back because of fear. Fear of failure, fear of the unknown, fear of stepping out of your comfort zone. But here's the truth. Waking up requires faith. It requires you to trust that God would not call you unless He had already prepared the way. But waking up is not just about hearing the call. It's about responding to it. Imagine someone shaking you in the morning, trying to wake you up, but you keep rolling over, ignoring them. The longer you resist, the harder it is to wake up. The same thing happens spiritually. The more you ignore the voice of God calling you higher, the easier it becomes to stay asleep. But the cost of sleeping through life is too high. When you don't wake up, you miss opportunities, you miss divine appointments, and you miss the chance to step into the life God has designed for you. Look at your life right now. Are you awake, fully alive, fully engaged in what God has for you? Or are you simply existing, going through the motions, waiting for something to change? What if the change you're waiting for is actually waiting on you? God is already speaking. He is already moving. He is already calling you. The question is, will you respond? Many people wait for the perfect moment, thinking that one day everything will align and then they will make a move. But the truth is, awakening does not happen when everything is perfect. It happens when you decide that you can't stay where you are. It happens when you choose to take that first step, even when you don't have all the answers. God is not asking you to have it all figured out. He is simply asking you to trust Him enough to move. Some of you have dreams buried deep inside of you, things you once believed God would do in your life. But over time you let those dreams fade. Life happened, disappointments came, and you convinced yourself that maybe it wasn't meant to be. But that dream never died, it's just been sleeping. And today God is telling you that it's time to wake up. That purpose, that calling, that destiny, it is still there, waiting for you to step into it. You are not too far gone. You are not too late. You have not missed your moment. As long as there is breath in your lungs, God is still calling you. He is still awakening something inside of you. The question is, will you rise? Will you shake off the past, let go of the excuses, and step into the life that has been waiting for you all along? It is time. No more waiting, no more doubting, no more sleeping through the life God has called you to live. The alarm has sounded, the call has come, and now the only thing left to do is wake up and step into the new life God has prepared for you. Would you like me to continue with the full script, or is there anything you'd like to adjust? One of the greatest struggles people face in stepping into a new life is their inability to let go of the past. The past holds memories, experiences, failures, regrets, and wounds that often feel too heavy to release. It becomes a prison, keeping people bound to what was, rather than allowing them to embrace what could be. But the truth is, you cannot walk into the future while still carrying the chains of yesterday. The past may have shaped you, but it does not have the power to define you, unless you let it. Many people live their lives looking backward, constantly replaying mistakes, reliving painful moments, and holding on to things that no longer serve them. The enemy wants nothing more than to keep you trapped in cycles of guilt, shame, and disappointment. He whispers lies that say, "You will never change. You will always be this way. You are not worthy of a fresh start." But those are just lies, meant to keep you from experiencing the freedom that comes when you finally release what is behind you. God never designed you to live stuck in the past. He is a God of new beginnings, a God who restores, renews, and redeems. No matter how many mistakes you've made, no matter how many times you've fallen, He is not finished with you. His grace is greater than your failures. His mercy is stronger than your regrets. But the key to experiencing His transformation is your willingness to let go. Think about how much energy it takes to hold on to the past. Carrying old wounds and failures is like carrying a heavy weight on your back. The longer you carry it, the more exhausted you become. You try to move forward, but with every step the weight pulls you down, slowing your progress and draining your strength. But here's the truth. The weight you're carrying is not yours to bear. God is calling you to lay it down, to release it into His hands, to trust that He can turn even your worst moments into something beautiful. Some people struggle to let go because they believe that if they do, they are dismissing what happened. They think that holding on to the pain gives them control, as if remembering it keeps them from being hurt again. But true freedom is not about forgetting. It's about no longer allowing the past to control your present. It's about choosing healing over bitterness, peace over regret, and hope over despair. There are stories in the Bible of people who had to let go in order to move forward. Look at Joseph. He was betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused and imprisoned. He had every reason to be bitter, to hold on to anger, to let his past define him. But he chose to let go. He chose to trust that God was still writing his story. And because of that, He was elevated to a position of power, fulfilling the very purpose God had placed on his life. What would have happened if he had held on to resentment? What if he had let his pain keep him from stepping into his calling? Many people miss what God wants to do in their lives because they refuse to break free from the past. They keep holding on to old relationships that God has already ended. They keep dwelling on failures that God has already forgiven. They keep revisiting wounds that God is ready to heal. And in doing so, they stay stuck in a place they were never meant to remain. God is calling you to release every burden, every mistake, every painful memory, and trust that He is making all things new. You don't have to be perfect to move forward. You just have to be willing. You have to decide that where you are going is more important than where you have been. You have to stop looking back and start walking in the direction of the future God has for you. Some of you have been praying for a breakthrough, asking God to open new doors, to bring new opportunities, to take you to a new level. But you cannot step into something new while still holding on to the old. It's like trying to run a race while carrying heavy baggage. You might be able to move, but you will never reach the finish line as quickly or as effectively as you could if you let go of the weight. Letting go is not always easy. It requires a decision, a conscious choice to stop replaying the past in your mind, letting go, to stop carrying the pain, to stop allowing regret to steal your joy. It means forgiving those who hurt you, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve to be free. It means forgiving yourself for the mistakes you've made, knowing that God's grace is greater than your failures. Your past does not have to dictate your future. No matter how many times you've fallen, no matter how broken you feel, no matter how much you've lost, God is still able to restore you. But you have to take the first step. You have to make the decision to break free. This is your moment. This is your time to stop looking back and start moving forward. The past is over. It cannot be changed, but your future is still waiting to be written. And the author of your story is ready to turn the page. Will you let him? Would you like me to continue with the rest of the script, or do you need any adjustments? Change is one of the most challenging things to accept in life. It is uncertain, unpredictable, and at times uncomfortable. Yet, change is necessary for growth. Without change, there is no transformation. Without change, there is no progress. But the problem is that many people resist change because it takes them out of their comfort zones. Even if it is holding them back. They would rather stay in a place of stagnation than step into the unknown. But if you want to walk into the new life that God has for you, you must embrace change. Not with fear, but with faith. Faith is the foundation that allows you to move forward when everything around you feels uncertain. It is trusting that even when you don't see the full picture, God is leading you in the right direction. Faith does not mean you will always have clarity, but it does mean you will always have confidence. Not in your own ability, but in God's. There are moments in life when God begins to shift things. But because you don't understand what He is doing, you resist it. You fight against the very process that is meant to elevate you. Maybe God has removed certain people from your life, but instead of accepting it, you try to hold on to relationships that no longer align with your purpose. Maybe He is closing a door, but instead of trusting that He has something better, you keep knocking, hoping things will go back to the way they were. But when God calls you to something new, He will often require you to let go of what is old. The longer you resist, the harder it becomes to step into the new season He has prepared for you. Look at Abraham. God told him to leave everything he knew, his home, his family, his familiar surroundings, and go to a land that He would show him. Abraham had no idea where he was going. He didn't have a road map, and God didn't give him all the details. But what did he do? He obeyed. He stepped out in faith. He embraced change, even when he didn't understand it. And because of that, he became the father of many nations. What if Abraham had refused? What if he had been too afraid to leave his comfort zone? What if he had let doubt keep him from obeying? He would have missed the blessing that God had in store for him. And the same is true for you. When God calls you to move, to shift, to step into something new, you cannot afford to hesitate. Delayed obedience is still disobedience. If you wait too long, fear will take root, doubt will creep in, and you will find yourself stuck in a place that God never intended for you to remain. Faith is not about having all the answers. It is about trusting the one who does. It is about believing that even when the road is uncertain, the destination is worth the journey. It is about choosing to walk forward, even when you cannot see what is ahead. And the truth is, real faith is only tested in the face of change. It is easy to trust God when everything is stable, when life is predictable, when things are going according to plan. But the real test comes when He asks you to step out of the boat and walk on water. When He calls you to leave behind the familiar and embrace the unknown. Many people pray for change, but when it comes, they shrink back in fear. They ask God for a new season, but when He begins to shift things, they resist. They want the blessing, but they don't want the process. But here's the reality. Change is the process that leads to the blessing. You cannot have one without the other. Think about a seed. Before it can become a tree, it has to go through transformation. It has to be buried in the ground, broken open, and pushed through the soil. The process is not easy, it is dark, it is uncomfortable, but it is necessary. If the seed could talk, it might say, "I don't like this, but I don't want to change. I was fine just the way I was." But if it stays a seed forever, it will never grow into the tree it was meant to be. And the same is true for you. God is stretching you. He is pushing you beyond what feels comfortable. He is calling you to rise higher, to think bigger, to believe greater. And in order to do that, you must embrace change with faith. You must be willing to let go of what was, so you can take hold of what is to come. Some people never walk into the fullness of what God has for them because they let fear hold them back. They stay in places they have outgrown. They settle for less because they are too afraid to step into the unknown. Fear is not from God. Fear is a weapon of the enemy designed to keep you stagnant, designed to keep you from walking into the promises of God. You have to decide that you will not let fear stop you, that you will not let doubt keep you stuck, that you will trust that if God is leading you into a new season, it is because He has already prepared the way. Maybe right now you feel like things are shifting in your life. Maybe doors are closing. Maybe things that used to be comfortable no longer feel the same. That is not a sign to retreat. That is a sign to step forward. That is a sign that God is doing something new. And He is inviting you to be a part of it. This is not the time to shrink back. This is not the time to let fear win. This is the time to walk in faith, to embrace change, to trust that whatever God has ahead of you is far greater than anything He is asking you to leave behind. Will you embrace it? Will you trust Him? Will you step into the new life He has prepared for you? The choice is yours. Your past does not define you. It may have shaped you, it may have taught you lessons, but it is not who you are. Too many people allow their past to control their present and dictate their future. They carry the weight of past mistakes, past failures, and past disappointments, never realizing that God has already made a way for them to be free. The past can be a heavy chain, keeping you tied to things that no longer serve you. But if you want to step into a new life, you must be willing to break free from the past. Letting go is not always easy. The past can feel familiar, even if it was painful. Some people hold on to their past because they don't know who they are without it. They have become so identified with their struggles, their wounds, and their regrets that they cannot imagine a future without them. But holding on to what was will always keep you from what could be. The longer you dwell on what happened, the harder it becomes to see what is ahead. The enemy loves to use the past as a weapon against you. He will remind you of every failure, every mistake, and every wrong decision. He will whisper lies that tell you that you are unworthy, that you are too broken, that you have messed up too many times to ever be restored. But those are just lies. The truth is that God's grace is greater than your past. His mercy is new every morning. He does not see you through the lens of your failures. He sees you through the lens of His love. When God is calling you to something new, He will not consult your past to determine your future. He is not limited by what you have done or what you have been through. He does not hold your mistakes against you. If you have repented, if you have turned to Him, then your past has been erased. You do not have to carry the weight of it anymore. But many people struggle to accept that. They keep replaying old memories, old wounds and old regrets in their minds. They keep revisiting moments they wish they could change. They hold on to guilt and shame, believing that they must carry it forever, but that is not God's will for you. He never called you to live in regret. He called you to live in freedom. Think about Lot's wife. When God was bringing her out of Sodom, He told her not to look back. But what did she do? She turned back, and in that moment she became stuck. She turned into a pillar of salt. Why? Because she could not let go. She longed for what was behind her, and it cost her everything. How many people today are stuck because they keep looking back? How many people have missed what God wanted to do in their lives because they refused to let go of what was behind them? The past may be familiar, but it cannot go with you where God is taking you. If you keep looking back, you will never move forward. The enemy wants to keep you in bondage, but God wants to set you free. The chains that once held you do not have to hold you anymore. The wounds that once hurt you do not have to define you anymore. But you must make the decision to move forward. Maybe you have made mistakes. Maybe you have been through things that broke you. Maybe you have regrets. But the past is not your home. You do not live there anymore. It is time to step out. It is time to walk forward. It is time to embrace the new life that God has for you. One of the biggest lies the enemy tells people is that they are unworthy of a fresh start. He will try to convince you that because of your past, you cannot be used by God. But think about the people God has used. Moses was a murderer, but God used him to lead His people to freedom. David was an adulterer, but God called him a man after His own heart. Paul persecuted Christians, but God transformed him into one of the greatest apostles of all time. If God can use them, He can use you. If God can redeem their stories, He can redeem yours. But you must be willing to leave the past behind. Some people hold on to past pain because they think it protects them. They build walls around their hearts because they are afraid of getting hurt again. But those walls do not protect you. They only imprison you. When you refuse to let go of past hurt, you allow it to control your present. You allow bitterness to take root. You allow unforgiveness to block the blessings that God wants to pour into your life. God is not calling you to live in pain. He is not calling you to live in regret. He is calling you to freedom. He is calling you to healing. But you must make the choice to receive it. You cannot change the past, but you can decide that it will no longer control you. You cannot erase what happened, but you can decide that it will no longer define you. You can choose to walk in freedom. You can choose to accept the grace that God is offering you. The enemy wants you to stay stuck. He wants you to believe that you are too far gone. But God is calling you higher. He is calling you to rise above the shame, above the guilt, above the regrets. He is calling you into something greater. So today, make the decision to break free. Release the weight of the past. Let go of the things that have been holding you back. Stop looking back and start moving forward. God has a new life for you, but you must be willing to step into it. The past cannot go with you where He is taking you. The only question is, will you trust Him enough to let it go? Would you like me to expand on the next key point as well? Everything begins in the mind. Before you step into a new life, before you see transformation in your circumstances, it must first happen in your thinking. Too many people try to change their lives without changing their mindset, and they wonder why they keep falling back into the same struggles, the same cycles, the same frustrations. The truth is, you cannot walk into a new season with an old mindset. If you do, you will sabotage what God is trying to do in your life. Your mindset determines your reality. If you see yourself as a failure, you will continue to fail. If you believe that nothing good ever happens for you, you will never recognize the opportunities God places in front of you. If you think you are unworthy of love, you will push away the very blessings God wants to bring into your life. This is why Scripture tells us to be transformed by the renewing of our minds. True transformation does not start with external change, it starts with internal renewal. The enemy knows this, that is why his greatest battleground is your mind. He will plant thoughts of doubt, fear, and insecurity. He will whisper lies that tell you that you are not enough, that you are too broken, that you will never change. He will remind you of every failure, every mistake, every time you tried and it didn't work. And if you believe those lies, you will stay stuck. But God is calling you higher. He is calling you to a renewed way of thinking. He is calling you to shift your mindset from fear to faith, from doubt to trust, from limitation to expectation. He is calling you to see yourself the way He sees you, not through the lens of your past, not through the opinions of others, but through His truth. Your mindset affects how you respond to life. When challenges come, do you see them as obstacles or opportunities? Do you see setbacks as failures or as lessons? Do you view yourself as a victim of circumstances or as a person who is more than a conqueror? How you think shapes how you live. If you want to step into a new life, you must start by thinking differently. A renewed mindset requires intentionality. It does not happen by accident. You must take control of your thoughts. You must be mindful of what you allow into your mind. You cannot fill your mind with negativity, toxic influences, and fear-based thinking and expect to live in faith, peace, and victory. What you consume mentally will manifest in your life. That is why it is so important to guard your mind. Think about what you are feeding your thoughts daily. Are you constantly dwelling on what went wrong? Are you focusing on worst-case scenarios? Are you listening to voices that speak doubt instead of faith? If you want a renewed mindset, you must be intentional about what you allow in. Replace negativity with truth. Replace fear with faith. Replace doubt with confidence in what God has promised you. Some people have been trapped in a negative mindset for so long that they do not even realize it. They have accepted defeat as their identity. They expect disappointment. They assume things will never change. But that is not God's will for you. He has called you to walk in power, in authority, in faith. He has given you the ability to shift your thinking, to break free from limiting beliefs, and to step into the fullness of what He has prepared for you. Renewing your mind is not just about positive thinking. It is about aligning your thoughts with God's truth. It is about replacing lies with His promises. When the enemy tells you that you are not enough, remind yourself that you are fearfully and wonderfully made. When he tells you that your situation is hopeless, declare that nothing is impossible with God. When he tells you that you will never change, stand on the truth that God makes all things new. Faith begins in the mind. If you do not believe that change is possible, you will never step into it. If you do not believe that God has a good plan for you, you will never walk in it. This is why faith is not just about what you feel, it is about what you choose to believe. Even when circumstances look impossible, even when you do not see immediate results, a renewed mind stands firm on what God has said. A renewed mindset also requires you to let go of old thinking patterns. You cannot hold on to a victim mentality and expect to live in victory. You cannot keep rehearsing your failures and expect to walk in confidence. You cannot allow fear to control your thoughts and expect to move forward in faith. You must make a conscious decision to reject old ways of thinking and embrace the new. This is not always easy. Changing your mindset requires effort. It requires consistency. It requires daily choosing to align your thoughts with God's truth instead of your emotions. But the more you do it, the stronger you become. You begin to see yourself differently. You begin to see your circumstances differently. You begin to walk with a confidence that is not based on what you feel, but on what you know to be true. Many people want a new life, but they do not want to do the work of renewing their minds. They want a breakthrough, but they are unwilling to change the way they think. But you cannot step into something new while holding on to old mentalities. If you want to see transformation in your life, you must start with your thoughts. The good news is that God has given you the power to renew your mind. He has given you the ability to take control of your thoughts. You do not have to be a prisoner of fear, doubt, or negativity. You have the authority to reject the lies of the enemy and walk in the truth of who you are. So today, make the decision to embrace a renewed mindset. Make the decision to think differently, to believe differently, to expect differently. Let go of the old ways of thinking that have kept you stuck. Choose to see yourself the way God sees you. Choose to believe in His promises. Choose to walk in the fullness of what He has for you. When your mind is renewed, your life will follow. When your thinking aligns with God's truth, everything else will begin to shift. Your faith will grow. Your confidence will increase. Your perspective will change. And as your mind is renewed, you will begin to step into the new life that God has been preparing for you all along. There comes a moment in every person's journey when they realize that life is more than just existing. It is more than just going through the motions, waking up each day, doing the same routine, and waiting for something different to happen. Deep within every person, there is a longing for purpose, a calling to something greater. But too many people live unaware of the power and potential that has been placed inside them. They allow fear, doubt, and uncertainty to keep them from stepping into the fullness of what they were created to be. But when you awaken to a new life, you no longer live in hesitation. You no longer live in confusion. You begin to understand that you were made for something more, and you walk in that truth with confidence. To walk in purpose, you must first recognize that your life is not random. You are not an accident. You are not here by mistake. Before you were born, a plan was already written for you. Your existence is intentional, and there is something you are uniquely designed to accomplish. But if you do not believe that, you will spend your life wandering, searching for meaning in things that do not satisfy. People chase success, money, relationships, and recognition, thinking that those things will give them purpose. But true purpose is not found in external achievements. It is found in aligning your life with what you were created for. There is nothing more powerful than a person who knows their purpose. When you understand why you are here, you stop wasting time on things that do not matter. You stop seeking validation from people who do not hold your destiny. You stop comparing yourself to others because you know that your assignment is unique. You walk differently. You speak differently. You think differently. Purpose gives you clarity. It gives you direction. It gives you a reason to wake up every morning with expectation. But stepping into purpose requires courage. It requires boldness. It requires a willingness to step out of comfort and into the unknown. Too many people never step into their purpose because they are waiting for perfect conditions. They are waiting for everything to be easy, for all fear to disappear, for every question to be answered before they move. But purpose does not work that way. You will never feel completely ready. You will never have all the answers. At some point, you must take a step of faith. Fear will always try to hold you back. It will tell you that you are not good enough, that you are not qualified, that you will fail. It will remind you of your past mistakes, your weaknesses, and every reason why you should stay where you are. But purpose is not about being perfect. It is about being willing. It is about trusting that if you take the step, the way will be made. It is about believing that what has been placed inside of you is greater than the obstacles ahead of you. Walking in purpose also requires obedience. There will be moments when you do not understand the path you are being led on. There will be seasons when it feels like nothing is happening, like your prayers are unheard, like your efforts are in vain. But purpose is not about instant results. It is about faithfulness. It is about faithfulness. Even when you do not see the full picture, even when the journey feels unclear, you must trust the process. You must trust that every step, every lesson, every experience is preparing you for what is ahead. Power comes when you walk in your purpose with full confidence. When you step into what you were created to do, there is a supernatural strength that carries you. Things that once intimidated you no longer shake you. Doors that once seemed closed begin to open. You begin to see the favor, the provision, and the opportunities that were always meant for you. Because when you align yourself with your purpose, you are no longer walking in your own strength. You are walking in divine authority. Power does not mean the absence of challenges. It does not mean that everything will be easy. It means that no matter what comes against you, it cannot stop you. It means that even in difficulties you stand firm. It means that when the enemy tries to bring distractions, you stay focused. When doubt tries to creep in, you remind yourself of who you are. When circumstances try to discourage you, you hold on to the truth that what has been started in you will be completed. But walking in power also requires humility. It is not about seeking recognition. It is not about proving yourself to others. It is not about chasing status or titles. It is about serving, about making an impact, about using what you have been given for a greater purpose. True power is not about control, it is about influence. It is about walking in such a way that your presence makes a difference, that your life brings light, that what you do leaves a lasting impact. Some people hesitate to walk in power because they think they are not strong enough, not smart enough, not experienced enough. But power is not something you earn, it is something you receive. It is not based on your qualifications, it is based on your calling. If you were created for it, you already have what you need to walk in it. The only thing stopping you is the belief that you are not ready. But the truth is, you do not become powerful by waiting. You become powerful by stepping out, by showing up, by using what you have right where you are. Every great person who has ever made an impact started somewhere. They did not wait until they had everything figured out. They did not wait until they had all the resources, all the connections, all the answers. They simply started. They made a decision to walk in purpose despite their fears. They refused to let insecurity hold them back. They chose to believe that what was placed inside them was greater than the limitations around them. That same power is inside you. That same calling is on your life. The only thing left to do is walk in it. To stop making excuses. to stop waiting for the perfect moment, to stop letting fear dictate your future. The moment you decide to walk in your purpose, everything changes. Your confidence grows, your vision becomes clear, your life begins to align with the greatness that was always inside you. So step into it. Walk boldly. Walk fearlessly. Walk knowing that you were created for more. Because when you fully embrace your purpose and walk in the power given to you, there is nothing that can stop you. You are no longer bound by fear. You are no longer limited by your past. You are fully awakened to the life you were always meant to live.